The last time our next guest was on, she said precious metals were at a crucial point. Sara Nunnally is the Senior Research Director for the Women's Financial Alliance, and she joins us back on the show. Sara, good to see you.
Thanks for having me again, Daniela.
All right, Sara, let's start by talking gold. Recent speculative positioning shows that investors are increasing their long bets in the gold space here. In this type of price environment, how would you invest in the gold market?
Well, let's take a step back from what's happening in the futures market and actually just look at the technicals for a moment here. Even though we've gotten a little bit of a price pop, we have broken kind of a crucial level of support. Prices fell below, 1,200 an ounce, and they've been struggling to find support above that level. We've creeped up, and every time we've dropped back, we have not found support at 1,200, and now we're trading at around 1186 or so. And if we cannot find support at this level from a technical point, we may be seeing a drop in gold prices down to maybe 1150 or even lower than that. So right now, the crucial point is if those futures markets and those call positionings can generate enough momentum to break back above the 1200 level. And if so, can they maintain that momentum in order to push them up even higher? We've seen some other resistance starting at about 1300 an ounce, and that's going to be a crucial test. We've been bouncing between those 2 points, 1200 and 1300, for a little while now. So even though we're starting to see some positive flows for the futures market, we're not quite out of the woods, and we need to kind of have that momentum build up enough in order to break through those levels.
Sara, you mentioned this range-bound trading that we're seeing. Do you expect it to stay like this?
It's entirely possible. I think right now, when you're talking about gold, you're talking more about the rate environment that the discussion is happening now. And the Fed is kind of saying, we're going to hold your hand a little bit, but the rate hike is coming. So that kind of easing into the rate hike means there could be some dithering in price and not necessarily a sharp move one way or the other.
And what's your personal feeling? Do you think we'll see that rate hike in September?
I think we're going to have to. And on a personal level, I would have liked to have seen it a little sooner to kind of shake out the bugs before we get into and start gearing up for the holiday season. Because if markets do get a little nervous and shaky, as they have in the past, then that affects a lot more in the future than it would have if we would have said, yes, the rate hike is coming in June. But we've seen some housing sales increase far more than we expected to. I think analysts were expecting 4.8% growth in new home sales, and we got 6.8. Those kinds of figures are making it increasingly harder to justify not hiking rates. And I think in September, you're going to have to see the Fed hike those rates.
Sara, and just quickly, looking at the dollar, what do you make of the U.S. dollar strength? Can it stay on this course? And how would you play it right now?
Well, strength is relative, and everyone says that, but it's not just relative to other fiat currencies. It's also relative to where the value has been historically for the dollar. And even though we've seen strength over the past 2 weeks or so, the value of the U.S. dollar index is actually lower than it was in mid-April. And conversely, over a 5-year period, even a 10-year period, we're at or near record highs for the dollar index. Not record highs, but decade-long highs. And if you take a step even further back, 15 years ago, we're 20% lower than where the dollar index value was back in 2000. So the relative price of the dollar, the relative value of the dollar, is kind of right in the middle, and all paths are open. So as a trader, I would not trade the dollar just yet. I would trade the knock-on effects of the dollar. We see correlations between the dollar and oil, the dollar and equities, and I would wait for a move in the dollar and play those correlated assets more than trying to predict where the dollar's headed next.
Sara, just wrapping with gold now, as an investor, are there chances to play this market, or are you taking a sit and wait attitude right now?
Definitely a sit and wait approach. from a technical perspective, this level at 1180, 1186 needs to find support to move higher, but the upper level is capped by some resistance, both at 1200 and at 1300. So if you're a trader, you may be able to play a small pop higher in the short term, but as a longer term investor, you need to wait for support to be confirmed in order to move forward with a bullish play.
All right, Sara, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks again.
And thanks for watching this edition of Kitco News. We'll see you tomorrow.